All right, Shalom. This is the brother Nahoya from the GMS Orlando camp. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Makakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasher Allah, and a sincere salutation to all Yuakim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath, who are believing this word, in all truth and in sincerity. Now, I want to go into the lesson through the Spirit on a recent video released by Glen Beck concerning Second Esdras, the 11th chapter. All right, and this was it's basically a butchering of Second Esdras, the 11th chapter. All right, and I want to go into it through the Spirit because we're in a time where Esau, the so-called white man, is trying to distance himself from the impending judgment. All right, you're going to notice that in this video. All right, because this isn't necessarily a video on the entire breakdown of Second Esdras, the 11th chapter, but we will get into it. All right, so without further ado, Lord willing, this be edifying.
And it's explainable on what's going on because the world makes no sense. So they're looking for a connection to God. So you are the only one. This Ezra's eagle was known to be or thought to be Rome for a long time. Is that right?
Correct. Yes, that was the common belief. In fact, they attribute this to the first century AD largely because they thought, well, Ezra's, he's talking about Rome.
Right. But it doesn't really work for Rome. And the only real
Now, for those who don't know, Second Esdras, the 11th chapter, is dealing with Rome. You know, what you notice is they never say why it doesn't deal with Rome. They just completely dismiss it. And see, what's happening right now is Esau is trying to distance himself from his wicked elites. All right, but it doesn't change the judgment. All right, now let's go here really quick. This is Second Esdras chapter 6 and verse 27. And it reads, "For evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched. As for faith, it shall flourish. Corruption shall be overcome, and the truth which hath been so long without fruit shall be declared." All right, and a part of that truth is that as a nation of people, the so-called white man is going to be judged for what he's done on the earth. All right, it's not going to be just his elites. Just like when you deal with Egypt, it wasn't just Pharaoh. All right, this is Slakia. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 18. And I want to jump down to verse 11. And it reads, "The master and the servant were punished after one manner, and like as the king, so suffered the common person." All right, so just like, because right now Esau is basically saying their elites are the deep state. When you deal with the Trump campaign, the drain the swamp, it's all about getting rid of the elites of Esau, the wealthy, the rich Edomites that are stealing, that are behind the scenes doing all the dirt. The average Edomite is trying to separate themselves, and then they're trying to use prophecy to do it. All right. In Second Esdras, the 11th chapter is the wrong place to try to make a point. All right, to separate yourself from your elites, because really, Second Esdras, the 11th chapter, really cuts Esau as a nation of people, and we're going to go into that. All right, so let's continue.
Question I have on this is how you came up with, well, explain what the eagle is and what the feathers are first, and then we'll talk about how you assigned a date to that.
Okay, so the vision starts with Ezra seeing this large eagle coming up out of the ocean. And the eagle isn't normal. It has 3 heads and 2 massive wings. And on the right wing, it has 14 feathers. And 12 of these feathers are long, and 2 of them are short. And then on the left side, there's just 6 little feathers. And fortunately, Ezra has this angelic guide that's with him, and he kind of points things out to Ezra and explains the meaning. And one of the things that this angelic guide explains.
All right, so what I want to do is let's go to Second Esdras, the 11th chapter, and read it. All right, so we're going to read the top of Second Esdras, the 11th chapter. And it reads, "Then saw I a dream, and behold, there came up from the sea an eagle, which had 12 feathered wings and 3 heads. And I saw, and behold, she spread her wings over all the earth, and all the winds of the air blew on her and were gathered together. And I beheld out, and out of her feathers there grew other contrary feathers, and they became little feathers and small. All right, now I want to go into this top portion really quick because it really sums up the proper breakdown of Second Esdras, the 11th chapter, when you deal with Rome and these 12 feathers. Because when you deal with it, it's dealing with the Caesars. All right, and for those who don't know, I'm going to give the list here. All right, now it doesn't show the actual first Caesar, which is Julius Caesar. All of these Caesars are title, but it was based on the Julius Caesar. All right, so Julius would be the first Caesar, and then you have Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, Nero, Galba, Otho, Vitellius, Vespasian, Titus, Domitian, Nerva. All right. Now, when you deal with this, this is the proper understanding of the Caesars. All right. And that's what the 12 feathers are. It has nothing to do with the American presidents. And this is what he's going to try to go into. All right. So let's continue on. I just want to give a brief breakdown of that before we move forward. Because, again, this isn't a deep forensic breakdown of Second Esdras, the 11th chapter. All right. But we are going to hit these points that they're making that are false. All right. So let's continue.
To Ezra is that this eagle represents a powerful kingdom that will have global domination in the end times. And he goes on to explain that the feathers on the respective wings represent the leaders of this country. And, so there's 20.
And Salakia, the last emperor would be Domitian. All right, so Nerva isn't included in this 12 feather situation. All right, so let's continue.
Consecutive leaders, and they serve one after another. So right out of the gate, this is something of a timeline, to count down, beginning with the first feather and going to a big prophetic event that allegedly will take place in the last days.
So it's fascinating to me because what caught my attention was the pegging of those feathers to U.S. presidents is stunning. However, you have to take a leap of faith because it doesn't go all the way back to George Washington. I think you're the only one that has pinned this. Were you the first to come up with this, to pin it to Hoover?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So you've pinned it to Hoover as the first feather, and I want you to explain that. But I want to make a disclosure here. This is a part where Michael and I share in our faith. Our faith teaches us that in the end days there will be a secret combination. It will be, basically the deep state, and that kind of sets the clock ticking. And the Book of Mormon is just history, but really an outline of what things are going to look like as we approach the latter days. And it's shockingly accurate to what is happening today. And that's how you came. This is the only Mormon part of it, if I'm not mistaken. You pinning this to Hoover. How did you get there?
So really, it's pinned to Hoover because of the incredibly specific language regarding the second feather in this series. So the verbiage of the prophecies says, paraphrasing it, says that the second leader will serve twice as long as any other leader of this country, and that before the end of his official, administration, none other would be able to serve unto the half of the time that he served. So, that is incredibly specific language. So it was really this that caused me to hone in on Hoover, because there's only one president in the United States that this could possibly be talking about, and it's Franklin D. Roosevelt, who was elected to 4 terms in office. He died of natural causes.
All right, let's go into this. All right, so let's go to Second Esdras. All right, because again, this is off. All right, this is Second Esdras, the 11th chapter, and let's start at verse 4. Let's continue at 4. It says, "But her head." You know what? Let me start up because I want to get this as well, dealing with the three heads. Then saw I a dream, and behold, there came up from the sea an eagle which had 12 feathered wings and three heads. All right, now we covered the 12 feathered wings, which is the first 12 Caesars. All right, now when you deal with the three heads, that's dealing with the first triumvirate. All right, and for those who don't know, all right, this is the first triumvirate, and it deals with Julius Caesar, Crassus, and Pompey. All right, I'll just read the first few sentences. It says the first triumvirate was an informal political alliance among three prominent politicians in the late Roman Republic. Now, keep in mind, Julius Caesar was the first Caesar. All right, he was the first one. So when you deal with these three heads in Second Esdras, the 11th chapter, this is the three heads you're dealing with. Now, from my watching of this video, I don't think he ever touched the actual three heads and what that was. All right, which shows you these Edomites are just prophecy isn't for them. All right, really the scriptures aren't for them, and you can tell by how they try to break things down. All right, now let's go back. Verse 2 reads, "And I saw, and behold, she spread her wings over all the earth, and all the winds of the air blew on her and were gathered together," which means she had control. All right, during the Roman Empire, they had control of the known world at that time. All right, they had garrisons, tributaries. All right, they had everything sewed up. Now we live and exist now in the revived Roman Empire. All right, that beast whose deadly wound was healed. All right, which is the Roman Empire. We're in the revived version of the Roman Empire. All right, now verse 3 reads, "And I beheld, and out of her feathers there grew other contrary feathers, and they became little feathers and small." And this just means that they were insignificant. They were Caesars, but they were not significant concerning prophecy. They had a rulership, they had a dominion, but they were really insignificant. All right, verse 5 reads, "Moreover, I beheld, and lo, the eagle flew with her feathers and reigned upon earth and over them that dwell therein. And I saw that all things under heaven were subject unto her, and no man spake against her, no, not one creature upon earth. And I beheld, and lo, the eagle rose upon her talents and spake to her feathers, saying, Watch not all at once, sleep every one in his own place, and watch by course." All right, and they all had a dominion. They had their dominion. They fell. Someone else rose up and had dominion. They all didn't have rulership at once. All right, it says, "But let the heads be preserved for the last." All right, and it says, "And I beheld, and lo, the voice went not out of her heads, but from the midst of her body. And I numbered her contrary feathers, and behold, there were 8 of them. And I looked, and behold, on the right there arose one feather, and reigned over all the earth. And so it was, that when it rained, the end of it came, and the place thereof no more. So the next followed, stood up, and reigned, and had a great time." All right, now he said this has something to do with Herbert Hoover. All right, when you deal with Herbert Hoover, he's a really insignificant president. All right, and this is who he's saying this second feather is. Now we know, according to proper understanding of the scriptures, that this is talking about Augustus. All right, now when you deal with secular history, they consider Augustus to be the first Caesar, but really Julius Caesar was the first. All right, Augustus falls next to that. He falls after that. All right, now let's continue, because nobody ruled longer than Augustus when you deal with the 12 feathers. All right, now let's continue. All right, let's pick back up at Salakia. All right, verse 13. "And so it was, that when it rained, the end of it came, and the place thereof appeared no more. So the next following stood up and reigned, and had a great time. And it happened that when it rained, the end of it came also, like as the first, so that it appeared no more. Then came there a voice unto it, and said, Hear thou that hast borne rule over the earth so long. This I say unto thee, before thou beginnest to appear no more. There shall none after thee attain unto thy time, neither unto the half thereof." All right. Now, when you go into the history of Augustus and his reign, the scholars have varying opinions dealing with how long he actually ruled. Some say it was 40, some say it was 41. All right, but he had the longest rule amongst the 12 feathers when you really go into this history. All right, let me get this really quick. All right. Let me just go to the point. All right, so here it is right here. It says the Senate was so receptive to the actions of Octavius that they conferred on him the title Augustus, meaning sacred, leaving no question regarding the power of his position. And so the newly crowned Caesar Augustus soon gained total control of what was unquestionably now the Roman Empire. Caesar Augustus accomplished many feats during his 41-year reign that solidified Rome as the dominant power in the classical world. All right, so his time was a great time. All right, which shows you this isn't dealing with the American presidents. All right, it has nothing to do with the American president. This was a prophecy concerning Rome. All right, so when you deal with verse 13 again, it says, and so it was that when it rained, the end of it came, and the place thereof appeared no more. So the next following stood up and reigned and had a great time. And that great time was Augustus Caesar and his 41-year reign. All right. Now let's continue. All right, because again, he's going to make another statement outside of Second Esdras, the 11th chapter. But again, this is Esau's his attempt to separate himself from what Babylon the Great, which is America, was established under. Esau is still how do I say this? Esau is still consumed with that delusion that they're the good guys in the movie. So now, instead of them taking the accountability of being a nation that was built upon bloodshed, they're going to throw it all on their elites. And this is going to open up sedition. All right, so this doctrine in a nutshell, when you deal with Glen Beck and this new Christian breakdown of prophecy, it's in order to keep them as the main focus, as the center of attention, as the good guys in the movie. And the plot twist is that you're not the good guys. As a nation of people, you're not the good guys. Whether you have a grief with your elites or not is irrelevant. All right, so let's continue.
In his first or in his fourth term, but Congress passed the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution before his official fourth term concluded, barring all future presidents from serving more than 2 years. So, I mean, this is what just locked it in for me, because this is incredibly specific. And so,
when you started with FDR and then you go through the feathers, which we will in a second, it is incredibly specific and nails our presidency, the succession of presidents exactly. But also, if I may, it was the Council of Foreign Relations that really, during the Hoover times, that it really took a hold, and that kind of plays a role later in the prophecy when you switch to the other wing, if you will. So explain the feathers and how they are marked for each president and what lines up.
Yeah. So that it starts with Herbert Hoover. And, as you mentioned, if you Google, founding members of the Foreign Relations, the Council on Foreign Relations, Herbert Hoover comes up. So that's, very interesting in the context of this. And you talked about secret combinations. If you read in the book of Revelation in chapter 17, John sees this amazing vision of the whore of Babylon. And I think that this is what, is the underlining context of what's going on in this vision. It's not so much a vision about these presidents as it is the rise and infiltration of of this country by this whore of Babylon. And that's why it starts with Hoover, in my opinion.
All right, so if you didn't catch that, he basically tried to say that the whore that sitteth upon the beast in Revelation, the 17th chapter, is the deep state. No, it's America, man. All right? It's America. All right, and this is Esau's idea of painting the picture like America didn't start off as a place founded on bloodshed. All right, matter of fact, let's go to this. Let's go here. This is Habakkuk chapter 2 and 12. And it reads, woe to him that buildeth a town with blood and establisheth a city by iniquity. And that's exactly what this country was founded upon. All right. It was built upon bloodshed and iniquity. So in Revelation, the 17th chapter, he tries to say that basically the whore that sitteth upon the beast is the deep state. And no, it's Babylon the Great. It's America as a nation. All right. Revelation, the 17th chapter. Let's get it. This is verse. I'll start at 1. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. That great whore is America. It's not the deep state, it's America. This system, this government sits upon many waters. It sits upon the people. All right. This is the golden city, as the scriptures refer to it as. All right. So trying to throw it off on the deep state is Esau, the average Edomite, trying to distance themselves from their own elites. Because now the privilege is being taken from them. So now they're going to go to the scriptures and completely butcher them. All right, let's continue. Verse 2 reads, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with wine of her fornication. Now, he just made a statement that, basically the whore that sitteth upon the beast, all right, the whore of the mystery Babylon, the mother of harlots, is the deep state. And he says that the deep state infiltrated America. When? Because this place was founded on the slaughter of the Native Americans and the chattel slavery of the Southern Kingdom, Negroes, and West Indians and Haitians. So when was it infiltrated and stirred and steered in the wrong direction? They can't tell you that. And this is Esau trying to absolve himself of his deeds. Scripture say he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears. And now they're still trying to make themselves out to be the good guy of the movie. You're not the good guy as a nation of people. All right, now that we're in a point where your elites are stealing from you, it's going to open up sedition. But when you come to the scriptures cut any attempt that Esau has to gain repentance. All right, now let's continue. Revelation 17 and 3, and it reads, so he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. All right, now we know 7 heads goes back to the NATO, and 10 horns goes back to the EU, the European Union. All right, and it reads, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet colored, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And through this democracy, all right, the wine of her fornication is spread. Anytime a nation adopts democracy, all right, and I use that term loosely because really it's just the wine of wickedness that Esau promotes globally. Whenever democracy enters a foreign country, all of these abominations and filthiness follows with it. That's why we know it's not just a deep state. That's a part of it, but it's Esau, Edom, as a nation of people. All right, America is the whore that sitteth upon the water. All right, continuing at verse 6 reads, and I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath 7 heads and 10 horns. All right. So when you look at this, that woman, all right, is America. It's Babylon the Great. All right. So let's continue with this video. All right, because we're just gonna hit these points. All right, and really it's to show that Esau is trying to distance himself from his own elites. This is gonna open the door for sedition. But this is their attempt to separate themselves, and they are butchering the scriptures on their way to separating themselves from their elites. All right, but the Lord has set up the apostles last as it were appointed unto death. And this is why we have the correct understanding, all right, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shah that's upon our apostles and elders to break these things down properly, man. All right, so let's continue.
So then it goes through, there's country by this whore of Babylon. And that's why it starts with Hoover, in my opinion. So then it goes through, there's, as I said, there's 14 feathers on the right side. And, you know, these 14 feathers seem to be counting down. And the specific language of the prophecy gives some other very curious information with regards to two short feathers that would be amongst these 14. And the specific language is that by the time you see the second of these two feathers, you will be approaching the midpoint of this timeline. So when you look at, starting with Herbert Hoover.
It's hard.
yeah. Herbert Hoover. And go to the 14th president, Barack Obama. So when you look in there for two presidents who were short feathers, meaning in the verbiage of the prophecy, a short feather is someone who has had their administration cut short by contrary or nefarious, means. And I attribute that to the involvement of this whore of Babylon terminating their presidency prematurely. So you look at this list and you go, it jumps right out at you that you've got JFK, who was assassinated, and then you have Richard Nixon, who was forced to resign. Now, as you go through this timeline, Richard Nixon is 45 years into it. And the prophecy again says, when you see the second of these short feathers, you're going to be halfway through this timeline. And then you look at Barack Obama. Well, that was about 43 years later. So that again just matches up perfectly with what Ezra's talking about here. So not only do you have the FDR and these two short. You also have these two short feathers, and it's really hard for me to just kind of brush those things aside and say, this is really just talking about Rome or something else, because it's so applicable to American history. Yeah.
And again, that doesn't mean that it's right.
And we know that it isn't right. All right. So when you go to this guy's website, because this guy has a website, and I'll just grab it real quick. In his mind, this is the 12 feathers. All right. Now, again, he's going flat off, but this shows you that now really the prophets are forcing, Esau to have to do actual research and come up with something. All right. Because before the apostles and their elders before them, the Christians were not going into prophecy. All right, now they're having to dive into the scriptures and they're winging it, obviously, man. All right, because we understand through the spirit that that's not what this is talking about. That America is not the good guy in this. Trying to separate the Americans, all right, from the elites is not going to work. Just like it didn't work for the Egyptians. All right, the common person in Egypt fell just like Pharaoh. When it came to the firstborn dead, it wasn't just Pharaoh. It was all of the Egyptians, the common people, all the way up to the ones who had rulership and dominion. All right, now when you read this, I'm going to just jump down to this point. All right, it says, this brings us to the most contested election in American history, the 2020 presidential election. It goes without saying that a very large percentage of the population believe that the election was stolen by the machinations of the American deep state. All right, and this is the whole thing of them trying to attribute the deep state to the whore. All right, and saying that America was not founded upon wicked. Matter of fact, let's go here. It's somewhere up here at the top. Bear with me. No, I can't find it. But there was a point that was made in his spiel about America not being founded upon um wickedness, basically being founded upon freedom and Christian views and Christian values. Well, that goes into Psalms, the 50th chapter. All right. And we'll get that because it wasn't founded upon those things. All right. It was used as a covering to justify what they were doing. All right. This is Psalms 50 and 16. And it reads, "But unto the wicked, the Most High saith, What hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth? Seeing thou hatest instruction, and castest my words behind thee, when thou sawest a thief, then thou consentest with him, and hast been partakers with adulterers. Thou givest thy mouth to evil, and thy tongue frameth deceit. Thou sittest and speakest against thy brother, thou slanderest thine own mother's son. These things hast thou done, and I kept silence. Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such an one as thyself, but I will reprove thee and set them in order before thine eyes." All right. And this is the Lord talking to Esau, because at one point they held the scriptures as if this is what they lived by. While they had Jake in chattel slavery, while they were buck breaking Jake, while they were castrating Jake, they were holding the scriptures as if they actually held to the tenets of the Bible. All right, the tenets of Christianity, if you will. And we know that the instructions of the Lord, they hate them. And you see it. Now we're in the time through the Spirit where Esau's taking the mask off. But you still have this remnant of Edomites. And some of them are Jake. Some of them are Jake that have a zeal without knowledge. But you have this modern Christianity dealing with these Edomites who still try to make themselves the good guy by separating themselves from their elites. All right. And this is an example of that. All right. So I'm not going to go too much further into this. All right. That was really the point. All right, so with that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasha Allah, and a sincere salutation to all Yuakim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath, who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Shalom.